This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek. And this past May Day 2020, there were demonstrations and actions of workers all over the country as well as internationally. And we covered many of these protests with the development of the Pacifica May Day Channel. And we had actions worldwide that were taking place live and video of their actions globally. And two important struggles taking place in the New York area is with the transit workers, the fight to protect lives, to stop the murder of transit workers because they weren't provided with proper PPE and proper education, and also the fight at Amazon and the fight to protect workers who were being contaminated and were being bullied to go back to work. And joining us on WorkWeek today is John Ferretti, who is a transit worker, Local 100. He's with Transit Workers Fightback 100 and as a shop steward of the union and an activist in the union. And also joining us is Chris Smalls, who is an Amazon worker who began to fight back to protect the workers who were being contaminated and helped lead a walkout and also took action on May Day. And both of you were involved at the rally that was held at the Amazon warehouse in New York. So welcome to WorkWeek.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
So why don't we talk first about the struggle in May Day? Why did you and other union activists want to do this action on May Day?
Well, I mean, Steve, as you know it, and I'm sure as your listeners know, it's a historical day of international working class struggle to celebrate the solidarity and the unity of the working class. And it's been so for over 100 and plus years. It goes all the way back to 1886 in Chicago, where there was a strike of largely immigrant workers fighting over the fight for the 8-hour day, the 40-hour work week, basic union rights and all of that. So it was important to celebrate that day with a new generation of workers who are finding their voice and are finding the ability to rock the world with their coordination and collaboration in the struggle. And I think it was important for union members to be at this rally in Staten Island. I did what I could to try to get transit workers to attend. The problem with getting large numbers out is a lot of them are infected. Many of them are terrified to go to work because 104 of their members, their coworkers, are dead because of COVID-19 and because of the MTA and Cuomo's deliberate, calculated risking of their lives and playing Russian roulette with their lives. So I thought it was an obligation for transit workers to be there to talk about that and to also talk about how we can build solidarity with the struggles that are already going on.
And it was just announced this morning that the union has been pressuring to get $500,000 settlements for workers who die for their families. Where was the union as far as demanding PPE before the deaths and the terrible
Maybe you could help us with that, Steve, because the union is missing in action. We need a bolo on our union leadership because they're completely and totally invisible when it comes to the fight for safety. It's been shop stewards and activists like myself and others who have been threatening to shut down unsafe work in order to extract concessions from management. And the only PPE that we actually have is because of those fights. In fact, our union leaderships directly told members that they were selfish. They were selfish for demanding PPE because after all, we were going to rob doctors and nurses of the PPE that they needed. And this was despite the fact that the MTA had a pandemic plan going back to December of 2012 that mandated them to have 6 weeks worth of every supply that we needed. Everything we were demanding, they were already obligated by their own policy to provide. And yet our union leaders acted like public relations rep running interference for management.
And OSHA, where was OSHA? New York OSHA, did they come out and do any investigations while your members were getting contaminated and dying on the job?
Well, OSHA doesn't really cover New York City Transit. It's Public Employee Safety and Health, which is same policy run by the state, and they have been largely. It's not that complaints haven't been made; it's that there has been no real response, and largely that has to do with these institutions are things that ruling class figures want to kill. So what they do instead of eliminating them is they starve them for resources. and they literally have very few inspectors to actually do the work.
Have there been any inspections, physical inspections of the MTA by OSHA that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of. The only physical inspections of work sites that I know about are ones that I led myself, and ones that have happened in buses and certain bus depots. There have been safety
So
inspections.
New York OSHA is run by the state of New York.
It's run by Governor Cuomo. Yeah.
Cuomo, and what does Cuomo say about that? I mean, this is OSHA, which we pay for. The taxpayers pay for OSHA to protect us as far as our health and safety. Where is Cuomo on the issue of inspections and protection of workers? Hospitals, Amazon. I mean, they could be down there saying you have to follow the law.
Well, Governor Cuomo has been basically running interference, saying that we didn't need masks, saying that
He said that you didn't need masks. Cuomo said that.
They said that. They said that they wouldn't help. The MTA that's run by Cuomo basically followed Trump's CDC guidelines. They followed a Trumpster moron named Robert Rensfield, the same guy who was responsible for gutting nurses' requirements. It's required that they have N95 masks, and they were trying to gut those regulations. This is the same CDC that said that in pork and poultry plants, if your mask gets dirty or wet, the plant owners could think about providing you with new masks, but don't knock yourself out. If it's not convenient, you don't have to do it. This is the kind of government oversight that we have under.
So the government agencies, which are supposed to be protecting workers, it sounds like they've been captured by the bosses, the capitalists that are supposed to be regulated by these agencies.
Absolutely. And it's going on all over. I mean, in the chicken plants, in terms of safety, there's supposed to be safety inspectors there from the government. They've actually sped up the assembly lines, the conveyor belts, so fast that it's almost impossible for you to find any kind of violations. You just have to get.
So thanks, John. And also joining us is Chris Smalls, who is an Amazon worker. And Chris, you're part of a network of Amazon workers who have been fighting to protect your fellow workers on the job, to have proper PPE. Why don't you talk about that and what's happened since you were led that rally, you were fired, and what's been going on nationally with the Amazon workers?
We're in the same situation as the transit workers, except, I don't want to say knock on wood, we didn't have any casualties as much as they did. But we still, with a large workforce, we have a very huge crisis on our hands. So what I stood up for back in March was to prevent that from happening, to prevent exactly what the transit workers are going through, deaths and casualties within the workforce. We shouldn't have to go to work, contract the virus, and go home to our families and possibly die. That should never be an option. And these companies, these CEOs, these billionaires, they didn't care about that. So what I stood up for on March 30th, putting my career on the line, was ultimately the health and safety of JFK, Staten Island. But as you know, there's been a number of different walkouts and strikes all across the nation. More people realize they're in the same situation. So more people begin to join the fight and more people begin to speak out. So May 1st was an example of that. We formed an alliance, John being a part of that, the nurses being a part of that of New York City. We decided to come together and be one powerful voice instead of individually. So I think from that relationship, we're going to continue to use this momentum, use this movement, continue to be a voice for everybody collectively. And I think that we'll have some change in the near future.
And we're talking about Bezos, the richest man in the world. Amazon is a multinational company. It's all over the world, including in China.
Right.
They import a lot of products. They knew what was going on in Wuhan. I know the U.S. government, Trump is now blaming the Chinese, but I mean, American capitalists here, multinationals, knew what was going on because their operations were being affected in China. Despite that, did they take any preparation to prepare workers here who were actually moving cargo from China, the things that were coming on, besides the workers?
No. As you know, the same agenda that President Trump had to put the economy above all, that's the same agenda these billionaires had. to put their business above all. Um, business was usual, business as usual up until the middle of March. We were still we're still selling non-essential items till this day in America. We didn't do what France did. France put summons on them to stop non-essential items. When they didn't comply, they shut them down. We should have done that, but we didn't. And that's the reason why Jeff Bezos was able to make $24 billion during the pandemic. That's the reason why he's able to demand 175,000 people to be hired, because he has enough money to do what he wants. And that's just not the way that it should be ran. It's not right to us. It's not fair to us that we're expendable and replaceable to these CEOs. And enough is enough. That's what we standing up for, because we deserve better. We deserve more protection, and definitely don't deserve to be retaliated against in the middle of a pandemic and lose our jobs.
And it seems that that the bosses are not being held accountable, even though they know that there's a pandemic. Do you think that companies should be criminally prosecuted, and executives and owners should be criminally prosecuted if they put their workers in danger that leads to their death?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is life or death. There is no cure for this virus. So you put your workers at risk, knowing the risk. That's like walking them to their casket. Yeah, there's a possibility they can make it out, but then there's a possibility that they can't. And what do you tell those people's families?
And what do you think about the Order Defense Production Act that requires that these workers have to go back to work, or demands that these plants stay open regardless of the health costs, and the fact that they don't require at the same time proper health and safety protection at these plants?
That's the thing. They putting profits above people. You're telling me that they got to go back to work so we can have hamburgers this summer, but you don't want to provide protection for your nurses and doctors. So it doesn't make sense to me. If I was them, I would not return back to work, at all. There's no way you're telling me that they have to be mandated to go back to work. The meat packing industry, when there's people in there really literally testing positive, processing the meat that we have to eat as consumers, above protecting your workers at the hospitals, the nurses and doctors that only have the ability to save people's lives. It doesn't make sense to me. We're working so backwards, and reopening the economy is the wrong way to go right now. And I hope people understand that.
Well, there's some people protesting, saying, go back to work. If the old people die, that's too bad. But it's like slavery in a way. I mean, who is going to be forced to go back to work? Poor people, African American, Latino, working people in this country. And
Right.
they're saying you go back to work even if you're going to die on the job, because they're not any money to protect you. What do you think that mentality is?
That's exactly what it is. It's basically saying, you go back to work while we get to sit home in our mansions. They're not going to be in the trenches with us. We get to go back to work. Yeah, go back to work. Put your life at risk. Be the guinea pigs until this virus surpasses, if it ever do, because there's still no cure. There's no proof that even if you get the virus one time, that you won't get it a second time. So they're telling us to do all of this and that, and they're going to be sitting in their $1 million mansions or in their 1 acre or 2 acres or more of land, secluded away from population, while we sit out here and we get sick and die. So we have to open our eyes up to what they're telling us to do. The revolution is a part of standing up for your rights and your own social. You're actually your own social place in the society. We're bigger than what we really think we are. People got to realize that we're worth. There's no price on our life, and these CEOs and companies, they want to put a price on us. We're priceless, and when people realize they're priceless, we're a great power. We have to put the power together. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make people realize that collectively, we are bigger than the government, and if we have to overthrow the government's decision For my kids, for my future generation, for my children to grow up in a society where they don't have to be subjected to this, then so be it. You know, I will fight tooth and nail every single day until something happens.
And Governor Cuomo, as I was talking to John about, is responsible. He's over OSHA in the state of New York. Has there been OSHA inspections of these Amazon facilities demanding that they properly protect the workers?
Not to my knowledge, no. And
So you say you've never seen or heard of an OSHA inspection at that facility that you worked at, even though you
no,
and others were complaining about the health and safety problems.
no, I haven't. I haven't seen it. I've been in that building 2 years since it opened. I haven't seen them personally. No. Um, I did hear a rumor that the CDC may have possibly popped up on them for a visit, but they're not OSHA. But we need more than that. Even if they did show up there, that doesn't mean nothing because the building's still open
Sure.
and there's abundance of cases there. What needs to happen is every building that has these cases, they need to be shut down. You can't stop the spread of the building by keeping the building open. The people have the building. The building is a host, but it's a breeding ground as well. But the people are the ones spreading it. If you keep the people in the building, the virus is never going to go away. It's never going to go away, especially when you have 5,000 people coming in and out that building and you're hiring and firing all the time. You're only recycling the virus. And, you know, it's a sad situation,
So it sounds like a death factory.
pretty much.
A death factory. Now, you had a rally on May Day. What happened at that rally? And who spoke at the rally?
We all did. John, the transit worker, John represented the transit, the MTA. He did a wonderful job. Spoke powerful messages. The nurses, I can't even put in words what they did. What they did out there was historical. If for those who didn't see it, they need to go to John's page on his Facebook Live and check it out. The powerful messages from the nurses and the frontliners, which are the warehouse associates, myself included. We also had a powerful message to deliver. I think I spoke for about 30, almost 35 minutes. And then we went to Governor Cuomo's office. So we went and stood in solidarity in front of Cuomo's office, demanding that Cuomo listen to us. Here's your nurses. Here's your MTA employees. Here's your frontliner. We all together on a picket line in front of your office, on your doorstep, and you're in Albany, and you're on the news talking about us every day, giving praise for us going to work. But that's not enough. You know, enough is enough. As far as the praise, you can clap for us, you can light up the Empire State for us all you want, but what are you doing for us? That's the real question. What exactly are you doing for us? You know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to the reality of our situations. And this is the reason why we continue to mobilize.
It sounds like kind of fraudulent. I hear Trump has got these jets flying over cities, but they can't even supply masks to the workers. Can't supply PPE, but we're spending trillions of dollars on the military. John, when you went to Cuomo's office, what were you saying there?
Well, we went to Cuomo's office with makeshift body bags to show what the future will look like for many working class New Yorkers if Cuomo continues his silence on both the MTA and Amazon factories being major vectors for the spread of the disease. And so I think that it's important to push back on this symbolic bullshit that Cuomo and the rest of these disingenuous, lying capitalist politicians put out there, that they care about us. And Cuomo, sometimes he lets it slip when he's explaining why he wants cleaning in the subways. It's so he can tell the essential workers that it's safe. So he wants to be able to get away with lying to workers and setting them up to be killed on the job. And he wants to sucker them into believing that they're actually being protected when they're not. And I think Chris is part of a new generation of working class people that are re-educating workers, that we provide all the value in society. We make it all work and we can make it stop. And fundamentally, it's a lesson of self-respect, and that's a very necessary message for working class people. The tragedy is that those who represent the unions, who supposedly speak for workers, are completely and totally absent in this fight.
And Chris, you had a resignation today of an Amazon executive. What was that all about? Why don't you talk about what happened?
Well, yeah, small victories matter. I always say that. This is a war that we in. We're in a war with our companies, our CEOs, these one percenters, and ultimately we're in a war with COVID-19. Um, but along the way, you have small battles and you have small victories. Today was another one. I got a DM direct message from Emily Cunningham, another Amazon employee who was recently terminated for speaking out, from Seattle, and she sent me the article um, about the VP actually stepping down. And it's the way I feel about it. I'm grateful that he had the courage to actually do so. It's just it's still a sad situation because now Amazon loses another good employee. I'm pretty sure he was a good employee for them. Also myself included, along with everybody else that they terminated during this process, during this last month. It's sad. They don't care about who they have employed. That's just another prime example, and it validates my story from the beginning. If I didn't have any truth in my story, I don't think none of this would have transpired the way it did. But because I did, and people are in the same situation, people believe in everything that I've been telling them since day one. More people are starting to come out. You've seen more strikes, you've seen more walkouts, you've seen more people step up, you've seen more people put their careers on the line. We talk about people that had 13-year tenures with the company. They threw it, they didn't throw it away, but they put it on the line. They lost it because the company retaliated against them. He himself, he'd been there 5 years. He said 5 years, 5 months, almost a year longer than I have. And that just tells you right there that this company is doing some very disgusting things behind closed doors, and people are not on board with them, and they don't want to go down and we're in the drain and the toxicity that they're doing, and they decide to step out into the clean. And that's that's exactly what happened today.
And you were mentioning early in France that France has really put more controls on Amazon.
Right.
The union there demanded that they protect the workers, and it seems like in this country, in the United States, it's a wild, wild west. The bosses, the owners can just do whatever they want. They've got a free hand. Is
Yeah.
that your feeling?
Yeah. It's no secret. Capitalism runs this country. Um, Capitalism runs this country. I said it again. It's no secret. France took care of business because they value their employees over profits. Um, they asked for their company. They gave them time to fix their wrongdoings. They told them to stop selling non-essential items. The company refused, so therefore they shut them down. That's exactly what we should have done, or still should do over here. If you're not selling what we need right now, then you shouldn't be open. We're deemed an essential employee, right? I'm putting my life at risk as an essential worker. Then I should only be shipping out essential items. But why am I going to work and people are still buying dildos and sex toys and cosmetics and DVDs and stuff that you can get still at the stores, Walmart, grocery stores, they're still open. But the simple fact is Amazon still cares about his competitors. It don't want to see anybody else do better than them. So they'll try any way to stop that. And that's exactly what they did.
Now, the history of the United States is a history of racism, of slavery, of exploitation. I mean, child labor. All these things were fought by workers and unions. Do you think we're going back into a slave labor situation where they're ordering people to go back in plants that are unsafe, that haven't been properly cleaned? It seems like basically it's a slave-like condition.
Slavery may be a little strong, but at the same time, the mentality still exists. Yes, the mentality of slavery does exist, especially in these big major corporations. Um, we're at the bottom, and they know that. They know that like I said, we're expendable, we're replaceable, we're hire and fire. That they have high turnovers for a reason. and they don't care. They don't care about our lives. They don't care whether we live or die. They don't care whether we have money to feed our families, provide meals for our family or not. They don't care. You know, if I pass away working for Amazon, they're going to replace me the next day. That's just how it is. They're not going to reach out to my family and pay for funeral services or anything like that. I have life insurance for a reason. You know, that's exactly, I don't have it anymore, but that's what they provided for. And it's like, it's sad, you know, we deserve more than that. We deserve to be treated better than that because we help make these billionaires billionaires. We do, the consumers and the employees. And without us, they're nothing. But people need to realize that, you know, it's the other way around right now, you know, and it's sad. But I hope that what we're doing now, it gives people the courage and the backbone to step up and stand with us.
And there are millions of workers who are organized, Teamsters, auto workers, transit workers. These unions have tremendous power, but it seems like, for example, the UFCW, which represents a large number of the meatpacking workers. They had an ad in the New York Times saying that, you know, people should be safe when they go to a store, put a mask on so their clerical workers and them won't get, but they no demand on the government to require that they have protection. I mean, a voluntary thing. In other words, there's no demand on the Trump and the government to enforce the laws and to require these capitalists to actually protect workers. This is, it seems like there's a fear and a refusal of the unions to really directly confront the government officials and the capitalists and say, this is what we're demanding. We want to protect our members. John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Chris was talking about France, right? And why the story was different there, right? And one thing I would slightly disagree. I don't think the French government cares about workers any more than the U.S. government or any other government does. They were disciplined to care. There was a credible threat. They fear their working class because their working class has a much more recent memory. In fact, they've been involved in a lot of struggles just recently in terms of general strikes, massive protests. So they fear what will happen if they don't act. So in the United States, we don't have a tradition like that. And we have a boss logic, business unionist kind of tradition that we have to help the bosses be successful. We have to work cooperatively and be partners and friends of the bosses. And, you know, part of what the struggles that Chris is leading is exposing is that our interests are diametrically opposed to the ruling class and always have been. And people are coming clear on that every day as they see their coworkers die. And, you know, fundamentally, we have to get to the point where Chris says we have value. Yeah, of course we have value as human beings. All human beings have value. But the working class and the people who make this world run, we create all the value in society. And when you talk about slavery, it's not an exaggeration to say that Amazon is benefiting from slave labor all over the world. They're benefiting from sweatshops. Microsoft benefits from sweatshops. Most of the world's cell phones, the computers that we're talking on right now, all of that stuff is made by slave labor, if not child slave labor. And capitalism is a war of all against all and a race to the bottom. And that's the future they are more than willing to visit on all of us if we don't begin to fight back. And so that's why these struggles are so important. That's why solidarity is so important. And even small victories are so important.
And we're facing now 30, 40 million, maybe 50 million people becoming unemployed. The highest unemployment in our lifetime and since the Depression. What, in this situation, if we can't even keep the subways clean, protect the workers, if we can't keep the Amazon, the UPS, other workers protected, how is society going to function without a reorganization? It seems like the capitalists are basically allowing a situation that is going to lead to shutdowns. I mean, because people, you know, can't operate in a place that's unclean because they're all going to get sick.
The problem is that it's not a rational society. There is no social planning. Because the capitalists themselves are a warring band of brothers with their knives out for each other's throats. And they can't plan. It's impossible for them to plan. Capitalism is kind of anarchy. And, you know, one thing that we need to be very worried about is, you were talking about the protests of the right wing and, you know, trying to force people back to work. Trump is feeding off of not necessarily capitalists, but like petty capitalists us, like the small business owners, their anxiety, their alienation, their economic fear that they're no longer going to have the privileges they once had. And what that does is that sows the roots for fascism in this country. And he's been throwing out red meat to these gangs of armed psychopaths. And the working class needs to be very serious about taking that seriously and protecting ourselves and building a collective self-defense.
And the issue of the politics of it. I mean, the Democrats and Republicans have both been pretty bankrupt in dealing with this crisis. What do you see as far as a workers' party, a Democratic Workers' Party, being a political alternative with a program for all working people against the billionaires who really run both the Democrats and Republicans?
I don't see it.
You don't see
I
it?
don't. Yeah, I was going to say I don't see it. I don't think we have the candidate that's going to be for the working class in the running right now. That's just my opinion, probably the opinion of others. But yeah, it's a very scary time that we're in. Unprecedented for sure. I'm not clear about this country's future. We're not clear right now. We don't have the right leaders, at least out in front right now as the chief and commander. And people that's in the running right now, I'm not too sure about. So it's just like we, as the people, we have to control the narrative here in some degree. Because if we don't, um, it's I don't even want to speak on what may happen because we don't know. It's very scary to wake up and know the uncertainty of this country right now, and that's the reason why I think me and John just sort of just hit it off from day one because we realized the bigger picture and what's at stake right now. And right now, it's really life or death.
And this idea that somebody else is going to solve our problem, working people's problem, the politician or somebody, a good company or something like that, the idea of somebody else other than working people themselves solving the
Right.
Isn't
Right.
that the ideology that's being fed to people all the time? Somebody else is going to do it for you. You don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, it's easier to give the workload to somebody else and you just follow suit. But it takes a lot of courage to be a leader. Something that I did. I took my tenure, my career, um, the way I feed my 3 kids, and I put it on the line. And when I was talking to the journalist that published my first article, I never even thought about it. He was like, "Hey, do you want to be anonymous, or do you want to put your name out there?" And I could have went either way, but I chose to put my name out there, and I have no regrets about it because, if you're going to lead, you need to lead by example. That's just the way I am. I want to follow somebody. I always say I want to follow somebody that know how to do the job like I knew. You know, as a worker, a supervisor at Amazon, a lot of people respected me because I was able to do exactly what they're doing and better. I was able to train them and train them to be better than the average person. So people love to see leaders that are in the trenches. So I feel like from the working class point, we need a leader that's going to emerge from the working class people.
And the workers that you're in touch with, other Amazon workers around the country, is this growing? Or are more Amazon workers coming forward and saying it's time to
Absolutely.
stand up?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single day I receive emails, messages from workers from all over the world, all over the country, wanting to join the fight. A lot of them, came into the game late on May 1st. They wanted to join in on May 1st, but unfortunately they couldn't because we did have some, conference calls leading up to that they should have been a part of. But hopefully going forward, we're going to continue to mobilize that we will see more people join the fight and our operations will get bigger.
And the future, how do you see this organizing? Are there going to be any other organizing activities or actions nationally, linking up workers throughout the country and internationally?
Absolutely. May 1st was the start of it. That was the alliance that we built. We had a joint press release with all the other entities, and everybody's still communicating on a daily basis, and they're excited because they feel that the power shifting. And today was another example of how we take the power and use it. A result which was a VP from a top company stepping down. So there will be more.
He didn't want blood on his hands.
Pretty much.
He didn't want blood
Pretty
on his hands. You know,
that's what it seems like to me. But hey, it's a win for us. You know, it's a win for us. So that's what we're moving off of. We're moving off of the fact that what we're doing right now, no matter how big or small, is making change, and small victories matter.
And it's life over profits, it seems. Life is more important than the profits of these corporations, the billionaires. And John, I mean, one of the issues is going to be the budget crisis now. The Republicans wanted to say that they should attack pension plans of public employees. And Graham, the senator, said he's not going to increase the unemployment payments past September over his dead body. That's what Graham said. And they want to basically bankrupt the states and cities and then attack the public workers. What is the solution to that? Because I don't hear any of the Democrats saying that they should go after the billionaires. They should go after Bezos and put a capital tax on or a wealth tax to make these billionaires pay. The complete silence of the Democrats on who's going to pay for this crisis. John?
Well, to be honest, there are politicians who have called for wealth taxes, like Bernie Sanders and AOC and others. But in terms of talk is one thing and action is another. And you know, they have millions of followers and they can build protests, and there haven't been the kind of protests that could force those kind of concessions. As far as the Democrats being complicit in this, I mean, don't think for a minute that Cuomo and de Blasio and the rest of them aren't sharpening their knives for public sector pensions and looking to lay people off in the wake of this crisis. De Blasio is talking openly about it. And this is largely because the crisis was not just created by COVID-19. The crisis has always existed. My agency has $43 billion of debt to Wall Street at 4% interest. That's how this MTA is funded. It's funded by Wall Street bond debt. And that's because they don't pay any taxes in the city or state, or the country for that matter. Bezos, I mean, I'm sure Chris could tell you how much tax they paid in federal last year and the year before that and the year.
In other words, the Amazon workers pay more taxes than Bezos does, who they work for and who they provide billions of dollars. I guess that tells it all when you're the billionaire owner of your company, Chris, is paying less taxes or no taxes and you're paying taxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think, Steve, we need to be honest with ourselves that although it's a dark time, there are lots of opportunities and there's lots of reason for hope. And we need to use any and all available resources to pressure and to force these concessions. And, you know, we need to put pressure on political leaders to back up their tough talk with action. We need to put as much pressure as possible on the union bureaucracy. And what Chris has done is he put them all out on Front Street. He grabbed the megaphone and he put everybody on blast. Because if somebody who is being groomed as a manager for Amazon can take a leadership role in leading the fights that they should have led and can gain international media attention and can inspire workers around the world, then what would be possible if we actually had the resources of our class to actually back that up? You know, so that's going to be a big battle going on right now.
And where was Sanders, this political revolution, his call for support for workers? Where was the Sanders movement and the people who were supporting Sanders? Did he make a call to support May Day actions around the country? I'm
not aware of that, but I know that some of the people who were building his campaign in the DSA were involved, and they just individually deserve credit, Sarah Dowd and others. But yeah, I mean, I think of the DSA, which I'm a member of the DSA labor branch here in New York City, you know, like, it just seems like they're kind of in shock over the outcome of the Sanders election, and there hasn't been much mobilization for fights that are really important and that are going on right now. And I'm going to be doing what I can to try to pressure within the organization to force an organization of 50, 60,000 members to start doing the work. Other than just getting people elected, we need to do the work of organizing. And I don't see a lot of that.
And of course, one of the issues is going to be hunger. A lot of people, evictions, people are being evicted from their homes. They can't pay their rent and going hungry, families going hungry. I mean, it seems like the labor movement, the working class should organize to prepare for taking care of people. It's not going to, the capitalists aren't going to take care of people. I mean, that they're going to take care of us. They haven't taken care of us so far.
No, they haven't.
There's Amazon workers who are facing attacks, who are scared, terrified to go to work, sleeping in their cars. People who can't go to work because they have pre-existing conditions. Where is the labor movement to fund resources to support these families? I thought it was an injury to one is an injury to all. What happened to that bullshit from them? Where are they? And so we need to start calling these people out. It's not about begging anybody for support. We are demanding that you support us. You must support us. If you want to
Right.
continue the resources and control of the unions, you must support us.
Right.
Chris, you want to close it up?
No, John always says the right thing, and I stand behind him 100%. You know, where are these people? You know, speaking of Bernie Sanders, you know, they all spoke up about me. AOC, Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, Bob Menendez, you name it. They definitely tweeted to their supporters and followers how they stand behind the wrongful termination and sending out demand letters to Amazon themselves. But that's as far as it went. You know, where are they now? When
They
I'm
weren't on your,
mobilized,
they weren't on your rally. They didn't come out
right,
to your rally.
right. That's what we need. If you know, talk is cheap. You can talk all you want, but when it's time for action, we need action. John said it already. It's time to take action. Enough of the talking. This company doesn't respond to that. You know, they don't respond to petitions and demand letters. They're $1 billion, $1 trillion enterprise. They can give a damn about a piece of paper. That's what we have to realize. Like, we have to take action. Why me getting the attention I did is because I went out there and I stood in front of the camera and I mobilized and I spoke the truth. People related to that. You're not going to relate to me signing a petition. You're not going to relate to me tweeting about it. Anybody could do that. Anybody could do that. Any citizen right now can send a demand letter to Amazon. Any citizen right now can put something on Twitter to Amazon. That doesn't mean ish if you're not taking action. So that's the difference. I'm looking for people that take action, and John is one of them, and also other entities involved. And I'm going to ride out with them, and hopefully we get more people on board.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for joining us on Work Week, and we're going to see some big struggles in the coming months and the coming years for survival, really, of the working class. So thanks for joining us on Work Week.
Thanks.
Thank you.